Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to the Access Show. Today taking a look at Grounded. Over the weekend, PAX East had a conference sit-in session with the developers, Obsidian. If you don't know Obsidian, yes, them developers that made the Outer Worlds have been working quietly on a smaller project called Grounded. Obviously they're owned by Microsoft now, the company, but this is going to be crossplay between console and Steam. So you will be able to play this on Steam and on console, supposedly, that's what I've heard. So this is coming out in this spring. I've already covered it a couple of times. I showed you the release trailer just at the Game Awards before Christmas, and I've done a few little videos giving you a bit of information. But this is a big, huge chunk of gameplay. Lots more stuff we've not seen, actual proper demo gameplay, while they were talking to the panel of developers. Loads of information, but I'm going to boil it down for you and just go over what I like about it. It is a survival game. Yes, it does look like it's a survival game for your kids, but you know what? I'm feeling this. I'm liking the look of this. It's looking like it's borrowing heavily from games like Ark Survival Evolved and The Forest. And if you can boil that down into something that you can play with everyone rather than just strictly adults, I think this game's got a big chance of being massive when it comes out in early access this spring. So make sure you like this video if you find the information useful, and stay tuned. I will be covering this in a big way. I've got kids and I'd love to get them involved a little bit in some of the genres that I really like survival obviously. Okay, starting off with characters, there's going to be co-op multiplayer, so it's up to 4 players. This isn't going to be a PvP game, although you will be able to do minor amounts of damage to your friends, more as a trolling sort of thing. It does look like it will be obviously online, and you will be able to cross-platform play, as I said, on PC and consoles. No word about PlayStation. Obviously, it is a Microsoft-owned company. I can't see it being released on the PlayStation, unfortunately. It's set in the 90s, that's where the fashion sense is coming from according to the devs, and as you can see I'm zooming into the gameplay so we don't see them big black rocks. You're going to be fighting off lots of insects and lots of creatures. Not every single insect is out to get you though. Some of them are just there as neutrals, so they won't really go for you unless you upset them. Got a good look at the inventory menus and the skill menus and stuff, and it really is just like Ark Survival Evolved, but then mixing it with The Forest. If you've never played The Forest, usually you craft something, you put it out, and then you can add items to it. So if you're building a log cabin, you put the blueprint out and anyone can go and add the items to build that thing. Whereas in Ark and Conan and other survival games, normally you craft it, you have to build it and have all the resources in your inventory first, and then only after all that's done, you can then go and place the completed. I really like this idea. Obviously as a co-op game, it's really super useful for doing a project together. You can just put the blueprint out and anyone can add to it. Now this may be slightly aimed at a younger audience, but it doesn't mean they're taking back some of the survival mechanics. You will have to make sure you're drinking and eating lots of food and water to make sure you're sustainable. While it won't kill you if you run out, it will debilitate you and cause you to lose energy, and then at that stage anything that gives you one hit and you'll be brown bread. So you are going to have to keep track of your survival stats for sure. And that does mean of course killing and eating the bugs that you find. You're going to have to put them on a spit and cook them up. What the gameplay demo really does show a lot of is the freedom of what you can do, where you can place. You can pretty much build everywhere, and there are missions and tasks that you need to complete to progress the story. There is a fully fledged story in the game. It doesn't mean necessarily you always have to stick to exactly the methods they want you to. You can be a bit more freeform. Anyway, there's some screenshots of some of the insects and bugs that you're going to encounter. They look really cool. There's lots of different ones, and it is a horde style game. They will periodically maybe come and attack your base. And there's big boss creatures, including a gigantic spider. Now, if you're really not a big fan of arachnids, don't worry, they're implementing a mode to make it less scary. They've looked into the psychological effects of spiders. Some other games have done this as well, including Satisfactory, and they've changed the models in the past for spiders because people really just don't like playing games if they've got spiders in them. It's a big fear. Well, they're going to be doing something very similar, and they're working on something along them lines too. You will be making use out of the creature's remains, like this mask from a weevil. This is going to help you in some toxic environments. The map is going to have lots of different biomes. It's not procedurally generated or anything like that. There is structure to it. It's going to have different biomes that you're going to have to get different equipment to access. And that's kind of where you can maybe be a bit more creative in how you access certain areas. You maybe don't always have to follow the exact method the story says. Weapons and items you've seen in every survival game go in, but with their own little insect, little twist, and I really like it. I really like the idea of this. I think this is going to be good. They've obviously seen how big survival games have been the last few years, particularly on console, how big Ark Survival Evolved was, and just taking cues from that. Now, obviously, dinosaurs are massively popular and are going to be carrying on to be popular, but insects are probably the next best bet with younger audiences as well as adults, I would say. And so why not have a game where you could possibly tame them? Now, it's not in there just yet, but they've got plans to possibly add rideable insects in the future and make them actually usable. So it is going to be in early access. It is going to be a while that it's going to be in early access on Steam and game preview on console. A little bit of a closer look at the insides and a few decorative pieces and the basics. You know, fire, you've got a little crafting bench. The build pieces look great though. It looks pretty flexible. Again, very much like Ark Survival Evolved in how you can place stuff and actually have your doorways. But it's a good touch to have lots of cosmetics. The grass acts as your wood, obviously, and you will be able to stack it up. And this is where we start going towards other games like The Forest. You don't just put it all in your inventory. You can physically carry a set amount of items and then chuck them. So that does make some things a lot easier, particularly if you're just gathering resources, to be able to have 10 sticks in your hand, come back and just drop them on the floor with one button instead of going into different inventories and dropping them and etc. It's always a bit fiddly, I find, with some games. So I like that idea, and that's the same thing it is in The Forest. I really like that method of collecting big items anyway. I'm sure you're still going to be able to hold some smaller items inside your inventories. Now, the whole world obviously is based on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. This has been talked about a lot, but I like this as well because we're taking a good look at the watch. It looks like you've got your stamina bar on the left, the blue one, the health bar on the right, and then you've got two smaller little signs for maybe your water and your food needs. And as I said, you're not going to die just because you run out of food and water, but it will make you maybe lose a bit of stamina or make you more susceptible to other creatures. And you can see not all the ants, not all of them are dangerous. They will be neutral. They might only attack you if you attack some of them. Not all the creatures, but some of them anyway. It looks pretty cool, looks really good. A lot of the articles I've read alongside the panel say that it's a lot more detailed than something like where you've seen Fortnite and cartoony graphics. This may be a deal breaker, particularly if you're an adult watching this right now and you're a hardcore game that plays games like Ark and Conan. But I know from personal experience having kids that really want to play some of these games in times, I've just not been able to let them because there is just a little bit too much blood and gore in some of them, or there's definitely just something that's not suitable. So having something I can enjoy and play with my son or with my daughter, I think this is going to be great. And even if I weren't playing with them, I'm definitely going to be playing it. Let's face it, Minecraft really wasn't a kids game when it first started. Maybe it transformed into one, but that is like one of the biggest games ever. Will this hit that stride? Maybe not. I don't think it's as creative as Minecraft. I don't think it's going to have as much sandbox moments as Minecraft to be able to be as creative as you want or to do certain things in it, but it does look like it's pretty freeform. So you're collecting dewdrops, you're collecting leaves and fibers, and that's the kind of basic resource you're going to have. You can collect them in your inventory. As I said, it's only the big pieces that you'll be able to carry maybe in your hand, and it doesn't necessarily just put them in your inventory, and you can carry as many as you want. A lot of the crafting recipes rely on fibre and rocks and pebbles and stuff. What they've said as well is that when you're upgrading an item or weapon to a better version, or potentially you've got some of the resources but something needs them resources to be made or refined into something else, well, in other games you normally have to put it into one crafting bench, make it, then get that resource you've made and then put it into another crafting bench, or craft it up again into something else. Well, Grounded is cutting away some of that legwork. If you've just got the basic resources, it will refine it for you into the upgraded version. So say you need like 10 fibre or 10 woven fabric or something like that, then you'll have the fibre for it. As long as you've got 20 fibre, that will automatically just be transferred over to the fabric and you can make whatever item it is, rather than necessarily having to go and create 10 fabrics and then move the 10 fabrics over and then create your item. Now you've got gear slots, so it looks like you're going to be able to have lots of armor, you can see there as well, and you've got plenty of objectives, the map, the research. You're going to have to research certain things. You will get blueprints or you'll unlock items as you progress through the game, so it is gated off a little bit, but the developers were keen to point out it's not really going to be highly gated. You will be able to come up with solutions around certain things if you don't have them items, and as I said during the panel, they were really keen to emphasize this, it's a soft gating. For the first time as well, I think we're seeing first and third person views, and you can see the combat that's taking place. Pretty generic, pretty basic, what you'd expect, but nevertheless still pretty fun. Imagine a bunch of these ants coming over and attacking your base and having to defend and put up traps. That's what the aim is really with a lot of the gameplay mechanics in the game. There is consequences though. Kill too many of a certain creature and you might have trouble with them producing or affecting the ecosystem around you. So something that takes out certain other creatures, if you kill them, then maybe the other creatures are going to spawn more and you may have more of a problem. So the world does change. They have got night and day. I do believe they're thinking about weather effects, but it isn't implemented just yet. People wanted to know whether or not you could burrow or build tunnels underneath, because there's tunnels obviously for the spiders and stuff. They said they're not planning that just yet, but you can never say never. So I like the flexibility. It may be just the devs being a bit too exuberant about what the future can hold, but during the panel they spoke a lot about being responsive and being able to do things quickly and iterate, and that's generally what a lot of these indie developers do with survival games. You know, they go on the fly, they update constantly, and that's the kind of early access I like seeing from developers, if they're willing to try stuff out. So if they can keep up to that, then fair play on them. The team behind it is pretty small. I think they've only got about 10 to 12 people working on this, maybe even less than that. So it's always been a small development, and they were doing this before they got bought out by Microsoft. So obviously Microsoft are just like, yay, give me a brand new, young, focused game that we can get people playing, and yep, we'll love it even more. So yeah, I think Microsoft have just fallen on their feet. One of the best RPG makers in the business, and now hopefully something looking pretty promising. The devs speak quite at the end of this demo, talking about how combos will be there. So there will be combat combos that you can do, and depending on how many players are in the world, you'll have more insects that will be homing in on you, or will be more dangerous, or there will be more of them at least. So it will scale, the difficulty will scale depending on how many players are in it. So you don't have to worry too much. It's not going to be super hard just playing on your own. It will only get maybe a bit more difficult if there's more players. Again, a nice little touch that I've seen in games like The Forest, where you actually do damage to the trees and you can see the damage that you're taking or doing. The little water goblets, that's what you're going to be drinking from. There's going to be no big pools of water that you're going to have to duck down and drink from. That's what you need every day. And you can see the building's pretty freeform. I like the way it is. It's pretty simple. Nice lots of walls made in out stuff. You'll be able to upgrade and get better walls later on. And that blueprint system is a winner for me. I wish all survival games did that. It makes the idea of being tribe life and co-op much easier and quicker to actually work with players when you can do this. And here's actually picking up the items and chucking them in action, like I mentioned earlier as well. So all good. It's like you've got a developer, a big developer, or well, still a small developer, a big history, and they've took a look at what's successful in survival and gone, you know what, let's take the best bits from all these survival games like Ark, Conan, and a little bit of Minecraft as well, creativity. Let's chuck it together and see if we can make something that actually is pretty fun to play. I am gonna get behind this in a big way. I can sense it now. This is gonna be big, and I think I want to be on it as soon as it comes out. So yeah, I'll be giving you information about when it starts off, if they've got any type of beta. I'm pretty sure they'll just go into early access. They've said spring. I reckon it'll probably be more like summer, but you never know. They're iterating fast, they're iterating rapidly, and they do seem to want to keep it in tandem, so they'll be getting the updates ready for PC and console at the same time. Obviously playable on the Xbox One, just like all Microsoft games. Going forward, it's not going to be an Xbox X Series exclusive, so that's pretty good to know. And this is something I hadn't seen any gameplay before, or any trailers, aggroing the ladybug and the way it attacks you. So you might have to think carefully about how you come across some creatures and what you're going to be doing with them. And I just like the aesthetic. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was like an amazing movie. When I was a kid, God, that was a long time ago. And I even remember the really rubbish sequels, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. That was crazy as well. So yeah, I'm excited. I hope you guys could tell. I'm going to keep you in the loop with anything else that's going on with this. Make sure you like the video, make sure you stay tuned for more grounded gameplay. I spliced together all the footage from the PAX West demo thing, so I'm going to leave it playing. So forgive me if it cuts out some of the developers' answers and questions, but I did just want to focus on the gameplay, and hopefully I've covered most of the main beats you need to know in the first part of the video. So yeah, enjoy it, and I'll see you ratbags later.
It's a pretty challenging problem for us. So the stuff that is heavy for the characters, so a lot of the animations, the models, they're running a lot of their similar AI. Brian McIntosh kind of helped design a lot of that too, where there's a pretty neat debug mode that you can't see in here, but you can fly way above the yard and turn on debug, and you can just see like these little polygons of everything just moving around and picking up stuff and saying, I want to go to sleep, or I'm going to go steal this piece of food. It's quite impressive and pretty neat to look at.
Cool, thank you.
New meaning to debug mode, right?
Yes.
Interesting. Next question.
What kind of interaction will there be with other parts of the ecosystem of the backyard? Like birds eat insects.
What they usually hunt, like then they'll have to go somewhere else. So that's kind of what we're looking at for launch. We want to be able to expand on that as much as possible. We got all like the framework done, and we're looking at ways of expanding that for the future.
Thank you.
We had a question from the Twitch chat about weapon durability. Is that something you guys are working on?
Yeah, so we do have weapon durability. I mean, it's the durability is pretty, I guess, you know, you won't really notice it. It's not like a super fast durability, or in terms of, you know, the strength of the weapon will eventually degrade over time and then break, and then you have to repair it. And same thing with armor.
So about that arachnophobia mode where you can kind of tone it down to help people who are scared of spiders, is that more server side where everyone who's playing together now has to see it that way? Or if I'm playing with someone who wants to have that turned on, but I want to see the game at its basic with everything turned off, can I do that as well?
Yeah, it's client side, so you can do it on a per person basis. And it is surface mode or surface level, so it doesn't affect the way the spider plays. We still want the spider to be a challenging monster in the game, even if you are playing on arachnophobia mode. And we really want to evoke like the sense of danger that comes with fighting a giant monster just without triggering somebody's phobia.
We got a question from the chat. I don't even think this is possible, but they said, what will happen to the ecosystem if they wipe out all the spiders?
Yeah, who knows? Everything will go, you know, all the insects will just go crazy. There's no spiders in the world. I have no idea.
The neighbors have spiders too. They'll come.
It's always the neighbors. We have a question here. Hi there. What's your name?
Hey, my name is David, and my question is, you said there's going to be a story, you said there's exploration and progress. Would anything be story locked, or would you basically be able to do anything or go anywhere with enough exploration and preparation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that we're looking at the world design is we're taking some inspiration from like Metroidvania games. So you'll have to be able to craft certain, you know, things in the world to be able to progress into different areas. One of the examples I think Sean's going to talk about, because I'm pretty sure I know what he's going to say.
Maybe. So one of the things that we come across sometimes is if there's an area that's up high and requires some, you know, difficult to traverse method to get to, people have raised the concern, well, what if somebody just builds stairs up there? And personally, I think that's great. We want to allow the player to overcome these challenges however they feel it best. And I think that giving the players the tools to you know, solve whatever problem they need to solve, I think is a more interesting way to do it than artificially gating things.
Yeah, we call it like soft gates. But one of the examples is, you know, like the gas mask that we showed off. You have to equip that to get through the haze area. So there's a bit of that, but we want the player to be able to kind of solve these problems in different ways as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So which really, one of the questions in the chat will be the different kinds of areas like biomes. And you kind of alluded to something like that, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of different areas in the yard. So we want to, you know, having just an area of grass is only interesting for so long. So we have a bunch of different, like, even in the grasslands, we have a flooded area where there's a sprinkler that's cracked and has flooded a big portion of that, of the yard. And, you know, different creatures will call that home.
Okay. Hi there.
Hi, Mark from Ottawa.
Hi, Mark.
Tunneling. There seems to be a lot of tunnels. Any tunneling that can be made up by the players, or like digging or
Like terraforming.
Terraforming.
Currently, we don't have any terraforming. We do have a shovel tool, but it at that scale, you'd have to move a lot of earth. So we don't have any terraforming yet, but like Adam and Robbie said, this is still early in the process, and we will take any ideas from the community.
And
Thank you.
how high can you build?
Yeah. Right now we do have some limitations on how high you can build, and it's dictated by like how strong of materials that you're using to build. So depending on the materials that you use for your walls, you can build higher structures.
Couple more questions, then we're going to wrap it up. Hi, what's your name?
Name's Steven. I'm from Rhode Island. I imagine the world, knowing you guys, is pretty good size. Is there going to be other ways to traverse the world other than walking? Like maybe like we can craft stuff that can make us move faster?
Yeah, we do have a couple ways of moving faster throughout the world. There are items that you can craft to do that, and eventually, it's not right now, but something that I would love to have in the game is riding insects. I know that makes the team sad because they have to do it, but I'm like, I want that. So something that we might have in the future for quick traversal. And the way that we're handling that is depending on, we have like I guess you could call it like an aura around insects. And depending on how many players are in that aura, the insect stats will be increased. So it's more of a challenge. And that is on an insect per insect basis. So some insects, like we really want it, like 3-hit combo will kill that insect. So we don't want scaling on some of the smaller insects in the world. So we are adjusting that and seeing how it feels. But we are working on that pretty much right now back in Irvine.
Yeah, the reason we didn't want to do like a global scaling across the board, like, oh, there's 3 players, so everything is like this, is a lot of times in survival games, players will break up, and we didn't necessarily want them to be punished because one player's over here by himself, and he's fighting, scaled creatures because there's 3 other people in the game.
Yeah, excellent, thank you.
All right, last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Hi there.
Hello, I'm Nick from Boston. I was curious about for the online co-op, is it like going to be hosted like through like one person and the other 3 can't play like unless if the one person's online? Is it like separate servers? Is there like a distance limit on the players on like how far away they can be from each other? Things like that.
All the questions.